Hey all, and welcome back to this channel where we explore different trending topics. Today, we got quite a story unfolding in Washington, and honestly, it says a lot about the mood on Capitol Hill right now. Lawmakers are canceling trips ahead of a possible government shutdown, and that's not something you hear every day. So, let's unpack what's going on, why these trips matter, and what all of this means for the rest of us. So here's the deal. Several congressional trips that were planned for next week have already been called off. Committees had scheduled official visits, including one that was supposed to head out to New Mexico to tour places like Los Alamos and Sandia National Labs. Another trip was being organized by the House Oversight Committee. But with the shutdown deadline just around the corner, lawmakers are deciding it's just too risky to go ahead. And when members of Congress are canceling travel, you know they're bracing for something serious. Now, you might be wondering, why cancel? Well, first of all, these official trips called CODELs rely on federal funding. If there's a shutdown, they simply can't go forward. But it's not just about the legal side of things. There's also the logistical headache: flights, hotels, scheduling. All of that becomes a nightmare if the government closes its doors. Some lawmakers don't want to spend taxpayer money on non-refundable travel only to have everything canceled last minute. Makes sense, right? But here's the bigger question. What does this tell us about where Congress thinks things are headed? The fact that these cancellations are happening before the deadline suggests that confidence is pretty low that a deal will be struck. So, do you think this shows leaders are preparing for the worst? Or is it just a cautious move? Let's zoom out for a second. The deadline to avoid a shutdown is midnight on September 30th. That's just days away. If no agreement is reached to keep funding the government, then we could see parts of the federal system grind to a halt. That means furloughs for federal workers, delays in services, disruptions to programs, all things that ripple out and touch everyday lives. And yet, Congress still seems stuck in a standoff. Why do you think it's so hard for them to find middle ground when the stakes are this high? The cancellations also carry a symbolic weight. They're not just about missing a trip, they're about signaling priorities. Congressional delegations often serve important purposes: oversight, research, fact-finding, relationship building. When those are put on hold, it says something about how serious lawmakers think this shutdown threat really is. What's interesting, too, is that some trips are still in limbo, not officially canceled yet. So it's like Congress is holding its breath, waiting to see if things collapse or hold together at the last second. Now, let's talk about what happens next. There are a few paths forward. Congress could pass a short-term funding bill called a continuing resolution, which would essentially kick the can down the road and buy more time to negotiate. That might keep the lights on temporarily, but it wouldn't solve the deeper disagreements about spending. On the other hand, if no deal is reached, we're looking at a shutdown that could last days, weeks, or longer, depending on how stubborn both sides decide to be. Which do you think is more likely, a quick patch or a painful standoff? And then there's the political side of this. If a shutdown does happen, who gets the blame? Democrats will point the finger at Republicans. Republicans will do the same to Democrats, and meanwhile, ordinary people who rely on government services or federal paychecks are the ones caught in the middle. It's almost like a game of chicken, but with real-world consequences. Do you think voters will remember who's responsible, or does the blame just get lost in the noise? Here's what I find most telling. When members of Congress start canceling their own plans, it shows the level of uncertainty and stress around this situation. They're not even confident they'll be able to leave D.C. because they may need to be locked in negotiations right up until the last moment. That's a pretty dramatic sign of how fragile things are right now. So, as we wait for the deadline, keep an eye on whether more trips get canceled, whether leaders start showing flexibility, and whether a short-term fix gets thrown on the table. It's going to be a tense few days, and the decisions made in these final hours could ripple far beyond Washington. I want to leave you with this thought. Government shutdowns aren't just about politicians fighting in the Capitol. They're about real people, workers, families, businesses, who feel the effects almost immediately. So when you see these headlines, it's worth asking, who really pays the price when Congress can't get its act together? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today and breaking this down. If you found this discussion helpful, please hit that like button, Share this video with someone who's following the news, and subscribe if you want more updates as things unfold. And let me know in the comments, do you think we're heading toward a shutdown, or will Congress find a last-minute way out? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, take care, and I'll catch you in the next video.